An important part of anyone working on VHS should be to always go to the code of the week and run through the code and sort of investigate and see, geez, what is that code doing? The thing that you're working on this week for week 3 is you're talking about the Java utility scanner. And that's something that you have to import. It doesn't automatically come, and you need to put in an import function. So that's this up here. So it needs to say import java.util.scanner. And you need to put that above the main method. So it can't be, it has to be outside of, I'm sorry, not the method, the class. It has to be outside the class. So you declare that so it knows that it's going to be, so you have to put it way up there so it can't be inside the class at all. So in this particular code, inside the main method, you'll notice that the code, first of all, follows very nice conventions. There's some spacing in here, so it's easy to read. These blocks of code have comments over it, so we know what's happening. So this first one says you can declare the variables and initialize them, which again, we know declaring and initializing at the same time, that's good coding practice. We want to get into the habit of doing that as well as commenting. And so we're going to prompt the user for width and length of the rectangle. And originally when I had mine, I'm not sure, but it didn't say length, it said perimeter, so I had to change that, but that's okay. You need to also, before you start using the scanner, you import it up above, but then you have to say scanner reader equals new scanner system in, because this is going to be input. It is input from the user. So before, we've been working on filling in our variables with values that we're typing in. This time, you don't know ahead of time what the variable is going to be. You know the name of the variable because you're going to name them, but you don't know the value. The user gets to tell you the value, and you're writing a program that's going to take that information from them. So first, to get that, once you have this, you put this line of code in, then you have to put a print line. So that's an output on the screen. So you're putting that, so the user's going to see, enter the rectangle width. And then you are telling the program that you're going to put a new variable and you're going to call it width. And it's going to be an integer, which means it's going to be a whole number, and it's going to get the information from the reader. It says reader.nextInt. So the next integer that it sees after they run this part of the code is going to be what we're going to use to populate the width field. And then this one, system out print, enter the rectangle length. So here, we set up a new variable called length, and it's going to be equal to the next integer again, and we're getting it from the reader. So this is sort of the syntax you have to follow. Reader.next, and then int needs to be capitalized, and then the parentheses and the semicolon. And then this one is going to call to the print perimeter method to print the perimeter of the rectangle. So we're sending parameters down. So we're calling the print perimeter, and inside the parentheses, we have to send variables down. So we have right now width. We don't know what the number is. It depends what the user does. And we have length, and it's going to put that in there, and it's going to send it down. So we have to find the print perimeter method. So we go down here. Look, here it is. And so here we go. And they put parameters inside. So they are saying, okay, we want an integer, and it's going to be width. This needs to match what you're sending down. So you're sending width is the first number asked for. Length is the second number asked for, and we're sending length down. And then we go down here. So now we're going to say, oh, this is how they calculate it. So there's a new integer that they're doing, and it's perimeter. And this is how we've set things before. So this should be familiar to you. It's equal to a calculation. So it's equal to the width, whatever that number is, times 2 plus the length, whatever number that is, times 2. And that will give perimeter. And so now we have these print statements here. So it says the perimeter of the rectangle with width of width and length, and it gives the length, is, and then the perimeter. So it's going to calculate the perimeter. It's going to put all that information, so it's going to be on a nice print line for us. Now I know we've talked about concatenating the print statements, and that's very important. This one breaks it up, but they still have some concatenation in it. And the reason they do that is just so it won't be so super long. So notice this is a print statement. So this is the cursor's going to stop right after it does rectangle space. So the spacing you have to put inside the quotation marks. And then this one also is a print statement. So they put another space here. So that's kind of interesting to me. I think there's going to be double spaces because they have a space beginning here and a space here. So I don't think you need all that extra space, but that's okay. And they put a space here, and then they're going to add, they're concatenating the width variable. And when you put the variables in, notice there's no quotation marks. And the good thing about NetBeans is it color codes. So you can tell when you use variables, or it doesn't have any color to it, it's just black. And then when you're using these strings, do you see how it turns them orange? So it helps to notice all of those when you're declaring, an integer, when you have these particular things that have to be part of the program, part of the syntax. These are in blue. And then output, you can see that that's green, and I think I saw that the input was a different, and the input is green as well, I guess. So input and output are certain colors. So there's a color coding scheme going on that I want you to recognize. As programmers, we always want to look at patterns. So this is going to print. So now we're going to run this. There's a couple of other things happening in this code, but let's just look at this. So I run this, and it says enter the rectangle width. All right, so let's say my rectangle width is going to be 10. Now enter the rectangle length. So let's say my length is going to be 20. So now the perimeter of the rectangle with width 10 and length 20 is 60. So that ends the code that we just went through. So now they're going to do another reader here. So this one says enter an integer value, 4. So this is a different set of code we didn't examine. Enter another integer value, let's say 6. And so the square root of 6 is 2. And that's a long number. So I'm not sure what this code is doing yet. We didn't examine it. But this is what you should always do when you get the code of the week. And it's all commented out so you can figure out what they're trying to do, and you can adjust this code and you can make changes to the code. But I think it's a really great way to have a visual for what is happening. So now this week you're going to work on exercise 4.2 in the book, and you need to have certain things. So you need to make a program calculating the area. So this is obviously going to be very helpful for you to look at this code and see how it works, because when you're doing the area of a rectangle, you still have to get length times width, right? And you have these same things. So you can look at this code and you can work with this code to help you build your other code. And you still have to add the scanner in, and this is going to really help you. The tricky parts for the exercise are you have to have in the main function, you're just doing a call to the calc area. And so a call function looks just like this. So in your main program for 4.2, you're just going to have a call, but you're going to call a different program, but that's what the call looks like. And then you're going to have the calc area that's going to have a lot of the system inputs that you see over here. Sorry, I clicked on something. And then you're going to have a calc area you're going to have area circle, area rectangle, area triangle, and so that's going to look sort of like this. So use this as a model to help you when you're doing your programming, and I think it will really help you. Good luck, and send me any questions if you have them.